Thank you, everyone, for joining us for another super exciting episode of the Blockchain Advisor, where we discuss everything that's related to finance, options, cryptocurrency, bonds, stocks. And we are having another amazing interview today with Ann Higgens. Ann was one of the few female brokers on the floor of the Chicago Board Options Exchange. And yes, it was a male dominated business. It was nothing but a huge cesspool of testosterone. Yet Anne moved gracefully across the trading floor, and being in the trading pit, never seemed to lose her composure, never seemed to get angry, and kind of duked it out with the best of them, and working in what was otherwise like it was like an all guy world. So Anne, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited to have you here and to get your perspective.
Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed watching your interviews, and I thought I want to take a shot at it too and have a way to preserve some of these memories. So, as I mentioned, people that I know now in my life now away from the floor can't believe that I did that. And I really did do it.
You really did do it. So, Ann,
Yeah.
tell me, just give us a little bit of background. Where did you grow up? Where were you born? What were your interests as a young girl? And what brought you to the crazy world of open outcry trading?
Right. Well, I grew up in Evanston, and um, there were no people in my realm that were associated with the markets at all. I didn't know anything about it at all. Growing up, no friends of the family or family members or anything. And then um, I went off to college and I came back and worked for a while, and then I went back off to a different school. And so I was just sort of floundering around. And one summer I came home, and one of my best friends from high school, Sarah Phillips, was working on the exchange. And um, she was like, I could get you a job down there as a runner. Okay, whatever. I don't really know what it is, and I had never visited before.
Hmm.
And so she got me on with Mike Altman, which was one of the greatest moves of my life. And I started working there that summer. And I told my parents, because I wasn't off on my own yet,
Hmm.
I said, I'm not leaving. I'm going to stay there because I'm really not dedicated to my college career. I'm just there because I didn't really know what else I wanted to do. And I think I can really have a future there. And you don't have to have a degree to be successful. You just have to work hard. So that was how I ended up there.
So, what year was this?
1977.
Wow. So, you were an early adopter. So, Ann, if you had not have been friends with Sarah Phillips, or if things had gone a little bit differently, what did you want to be when you were growing up? Like, what was your interest?
Oh, I like artsy things, but I learned along the way that that was just going to be a hobby, that there was not going to really be a way that I could support myself doing art. I've done photography since I was 10 years old for a hobby, and I've always liked crafty type things, which is just a fun thing to do, but it's not a living. And so I really didn't have a good direction in life. I really
Judging,
wasn't sure.
judging by your background, I'm sure maybe it was music that you were probably destined to get involved with. So, do you play an instrument?
I do not. And my husband does, though. And actually, these are his CDs here. And I always say that I have an important role as an audience member, because you need audience people too when people are performing. So,
Sure, sure. All right, so 1977, you start at so I just graduated high school in the spring of 77. And so you get a job, you're working downtown at the exchange, and you are introduced to Michael Altman. Did Sarah Phillips work for Michael Altman at the time? Because I seem to remember her being more independent.
right. She was working for Dylan Reed at that time with Lou, I don't remember his last name, and Janine Zuroff, who became Janine Wallace.
Oh my gosh, I remember her. Yes. Okay. We'll go back to that, but go ahead. Right.
Right. And she and Michael were um, living together at that time.
Hmm.
So um, I knew I had met him before, um, anything about working for him. And
Hmm.
then um, he was kind enough to offer me a job. So
That's terrific. Well, I
yeah.
started at the Options Exchange as a employee of the CBOE, working as a book clerk in the Ford,
Uh-huh.
Sperry, and Kerr-McGee pit. And just bear with me for a second. And after I
Okay.
was there for about 8 months, Tommy Wallace came in, clearing
Hmm.
first stop, and
Hmm.
he was dating, I think, Janine or Jeannie.
Janine, yep.
Janine, and I remember when he bought her that engagement ring, it was literally coming from a very blue collar family. We had little flecks of this was the biggest engagement ring I have ever seen in my life. It was a massive rock, and I'm like, wow, these guys in the CBOE are doing okay, And she
Yeah.
was, pretty girl, and Tommy was a good guy from my memories of the pit.
Right, right. So, yes. And so then I don't remember exactly how Dylan Reed evolved and went away and Sarah became a market maker, but that did happen.
Mhm.
And Janine came to work with us. So I feel like um, she may have become a broker right before me, and then I became a broker. So I was the second one at our uh,
So then you were
Drexel
broker
Burnham.
back on the old trading floor when it was like
Yes,
7.5. Okay. Okay.
yes.
And so were you responsible for an appointment of stocks? Did you work one part of the trading floor, or did they just send you everywhere?
We just went anywhere.
Uh-huh.
So it was, exciting and nerve-wracking. I mean, because I was a runner for probably about 14 months or so before I became a phone clerk. I
Mhm.
became, I knew the people well in all the various pits, or not well, but,
Mhm.
well enough. And so I had a high level of being comfortable being around them in the pits and so forth.
But the Drexel Burnham, I mean, it was a pretty small footprint, all things considering, that I remember. Maybe I'm wrong, but
Hmm.
it seemed to be like, Michael and like five other people. I mean, am I wrong? Was that just an incorrect perception, or was it still a well-oiled but small group of people?
It grew, and on the old floor, we had our first, what were they called? Our first desk
Hmm.
that had a couple of wire clerks there,
Right.
a couple of phone clerks, a floor manager, and few brokers and some runners. And then we expanded to another desk on the opposite end, sort of by Teledyne, and the one that was next over from it. I can't remember what was over there, but so we had a booth over there
Mhm.
eventually too.
Excellent. And so I don't really know anything about Michael Altman. Did he already work for Burnham and then he was asked to open up a desk? Or was he doing something else and somebody hit him up and said, hey, Mike, why don't you work for us and get us going on the CBOE? So I don't really know his background, just like for just 30 seconds of Michael's
Right.
background.
I know he was in the business in New York and this floor was opening and he came out, and I'm not 100% sure how, if it was Drexel that
Mhm.
brought him out, or if he joined after he got out to Chicago. So
Would you say that
sorry, Michael, I don't remember.
that's okay? That's okay. So, do you remember what you were going through, what you were remembering as? So here is a woman from Evanston, kind of artistic, uh, not business, numbers, finance related. I'm guessing, and here you have to take a test to become a member of the Chicago Board Options Exchange. Were you cramming and studying everything you could, or did you just actually pick it up pretty quickly?
I felt like I picked it up pretty quickly. So I was I had a good base of knowledge when I had to take the CBOE test. But Drexel decided for some reason to buy a Board of Trade seat and exercise it for the CBOE seat. So I had to take the Board of Trade test.
That was a tough one. I
And
almost failed that one. Yeah, that was a tough
I
one.
was shocked that I passed. And I almost think that they just let me pass because they knew I wasn't going to be trading there or something.
Right.
But
Yeah,
I
that was a lot of studying for that Board of Trade test. I did the same thing too.
I mean, it's ironic, and I always laugh because I was taking the test, and again, I grew up in Evanston. Yes, we are as a family. We traveled in Wisconsin, and did things and saw farms and
Mhm.
had friends that had a farm in Wisconsin and stayed with them. But I did not know what a grain elevator was when I took the board, when I started studying for the Board
That's
of
okay.
Trade
The other
test.
1,000 guys on the trading floor probably didn't either.
Right. And it's ironic too, because my ex-husband, John Pranchke, ended up working at a grain elevator in Central Illinois when we moved here in 1989. So that was, I just always sort of laughed about that.
That's crazy. So, how do you remember what it was like opening up your voice for the very first time? You get your paper order in your hand. Again, little quiet artistic girl from Evanston has to say Teledyne Oct 250s, half bid, like whatever. Like what was that? What was that
Right.
experience like? And then once you did it, was it just you just picked it up really quick and you were cool with the whole business, or did you always kind of feel a little bit nervous before trading?
Well, first of all, I mean, people who know me, I'm not a little quiet girl from Evanston.
Okay.
So
My
it may
apologies.
look,
I was
that's
judging.
okay. No, I don't, but I realize that's the impression that I give.
Yes.
And anyway, but the first time I had to do open outcry was in a mock trading session on the Board of Trade floor.
Mhm.
So that was really, that was nerve wracking because that was the first time I'd been on that floor, and I didn't know any of the people, and I had no idea what I was doing, and it was bad. But from being a phone clerk, I was used to yelling because we did all the hand signals, and you'd have to or be in the pit and you'd go out for quotes,
Mhm.
and then you'd have to yell back to the booth to get their attention to signal the quote back. So I, you know, you get into a little thing in your head where you just really don't even pay attention to the
Sure.
people around you. You're just focused on that person.
Every once in a while, I'll catch myself having a conversation with my family where maybe the vacuum cleaner's on or there's too much noise, and I'll still use like my kids. I say I love you, and and I do the hand.
Right.
Do you ever pull up the hand signals like every once in a while to your family or your friends?
Well, see, nobody I'm around anymore is from that, but I do, remember them all. And I mean, my husband now has no idea about any of them. So um, it would be convenient. And I know my ex and we did use hand signals sometime. He'd run into the store and forget something and signal back or whatever. So before cell phones.
And so what was it like for you in as the bull market was hitting in the 80s? I mean, did you yeah, I think you kind of rotate. Let's see. I seem to remember you rotating and being very active in the equity pits, but then I seem to remember you spending quite a bit of time in the OEX pit, unless you were just, playing relay with like Marta or Siobhan, and there was Teresa.
Mhm.
I can't remember last names, but please, refresh
Right.
my memory.
Right. Well, and so by the end of my time on the floor, I left in 87, but the last several years, I'd say, I don't remember what year we went to the new floor, but um, the first year or so on the new floor, I floated more.
Mhm.
And then I found I really liked being in the OEX pit. So I really was the person there
Mhm.
for us, which and Teresa would be out there a lot too, and Michael would he would come give us breaks, I'd say.
I don't
But
remember him spending very much time in the pit, I'll be honest with you.
yeah, he didn't, but he was more, you know, overseeing everything. So
Did you leave before or after the crash in 1987?
I left before the crash.
And after when the crash happened, were you like, whew, or do you kind of wish that you were like, dang, just
Yeah,
when I leave, like all the action happens?
right.
Because the bull market was
Um,
kind of, I wasn't snoring. It wasn't like, I mean, it was a massive rally in 86 and interest rates were 30-year bonds were about 8% and going higher in 1987. So, I mean, why did you leave? And did you wish you had not gone? And, more like, tell me more about the 80s for you.
right. Well, um, I had been thinking that I wanted to phase out of working on the floor. We were going to start a family, and I thought I just could not imagine being a mom with a little baby and going and being around all these people all day
Right.
long, and then going home and, you know, take care of the baby. It just wasn't, what I was thinking. So I thought, well, I'll sell real estate. So that was what I phased into
Wow.
to do. We adopted our daughter in 89. So, and um, I don't know. I mean, but when I was on the floor, it was when it was so busy. And, before the opening, we'd be getting our orders in, and I'd have 1,000 lot market orders to fill.
Gosh.
And it just was just crazy. And Marty Dim and Craig Weil
Yes.
stood right by us. And I mean, I was so thankful for that because they would fill our orders, and I didn't even really care if what they were doing with it, if they were making millions.
You didn't have to care. You just had to fill the
Right,
order. I mean, sometimes
right,
they made money, sometimes they got smoked. I mean, that's just part of what you
right.
signed up for.
Exactly. And I'll have to tell real quick, one time, Mary Pat Craigie was my clerk out in the OEX, and she was great. But one morning, it was a busy morning, things were going crazy, and she was putting orders together and everything. And I look over and she's doing trades with somebody because she's like, well, I'll just help Ann out. And I just was like, what are you doing? You can't do that. And I'll never forget that.
She meant well. She meant
Yes,
well for sure.
yes, she did.
Oh
So
boy.
that was funny. And then one other funny story,
Yeah,
because I've
no,
been
please.
thinking
This is
about
I
this.
want to know them all.
Yeah. Um, on the old floor, Kodak, um, or I guess it was Polaroid, Bob Main was in that pit.
Yes, right, Bob Main.
Okay. And so I had an order for our company. I had to go fill, and it was uh, our bid for the whatever the option was.
Hmm.
And so our traders always, I mean, they couldn't understand, if it's our bid, why don't we get all the trade?
Hmm.
You don't split it up. It's our bid. So I was under a lot of pressure from my desk that it's our bid, but with the group, they always split things up. And so I go in, and it was our bid, but I didn't fill the order. So I had to stand there and work it. And somebody, another broker came in, and I was first, thankfully, and I took them all. And Bob was not
Yeah,
pleased.
he was a curmudgeon.
Yes. And he was like, okay, I see how it is. And so I
You want
had
to
to
play
be
that game? Okay.
first on every trade until I filled the order, which I did. And it was, uh, that was, I'll just never forget that.
Yeah, we all have memories of people that just really gave us a hard time in the trading pit, either as a new person,
Mhm.
not exploiting, but a little bit of hazing. Let's
Yes.
call it what it was. It was like being hazed,
Yep.
and it was, but there was money involved.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And so, generally as a floor broker, you're pretty welcome into a pit because it's probably going to help the guys and gals out who are
Sure.
in the pit. So, they are always pretty good. But I did um, hear some pretty rough things. Um, and, just sort of have to laugh now with everything, how the world has changed and people needing their safe spaces and all that. And I just think, oh my gosh, you know,
Man, I struggle with that all the time. I mean, I still have young kids and their friends, and everybody's like triggered, or I don't know and I have no sympathy for that. I mean, I was telling George Doherty today, I was 22. I basically borrowed 200 grand in today's dollars, and I with no collateral. I mean, I lived at home, and this guy basically, I mean, we bought a seat with that money, but he backed me. Like, I can't even imagine a 22-year-old kid doing that today. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you.
yeah, exactly.
I mean,
And-
some of my kids don't even want to call an Uber, and that's like
Yep.
$15. So, yeah, crazy times that we had an amazing opportunity, and I think for me and probably for you, we had like nothing to lose. I mean, like, I came from a very blue collar machinist family, and it was either this or I was going to be a TV tube repairman. I mean, it's honestly was like my choice, and it was amazing, amazing time. So tell me some more stories. What else do you remember from either as your experience as a woman, how you might have been treated differently or even harsher, or then maybe sometimes easier, or uh, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
And
want to presume that it was just all grief, right? But the
it
women,
wasn't. And, you know, like thinking back on it now and talking to younger people, I'm like, you know, during our time on the floor, everybody was just who I don't know, there wasn't this identity stuff going on. And so, at Drexel Burnham, yes, there were a lot of women there.
Mhm.
And it evolved that the symbol, when you did a trade with somebody, what's, who, what, like the book
Mhm.
is saying who it is. And everybody knows what the symbol was. They're cupping their hands.
Right, you had a right.
And
So
so,
exactly. So shotgun was like a
right,
shotgun.
right.
Merrill Lynch was the bull, right?
Uh-huh. And
And Drexel Burnham was cupping your breasts,
you're
basically, because it
right,
was almost all
right.
women. You know.
And so, I mean, and there were other symbols. So I went up to Kenny Silverstein was the main guy of the book in the OEX, I
Yep.
believe. And it's like, Kenny, come on. You're trying to, the OEX, or not the OEX, the CBOE is trying to have this more professional type thing. And, we're trying to be uh, looked at in a good way from the outside. Can't you use something else? And he's like, what else is there? And I'm like, how about B? You know,
Right.
and but they didn't adopt that.
Yeah.
So,
It was the way it is. We just kind of went along to get along in a way,
right, right.
but it was we didn't even think about it. I mean, I wouldn't. Yes, it was a sexual. Mm, I don't know what word language acronym. I'm not quite sure what, but being in the trading pit when you're 30 feet away with 500 screaming people, we had to over accentuate and over exaggerate, Merrill like a drill, Merrill Lynch, and
Hmm.
all the different names. And I don't think, I mean, we might have chuckled once in a while, but honestly, we really weren't thinking much about like who it was. It was just
Right, right. And that's so it just goes back to, you know, uh, I have worked most of my life in an industry that's male oriented. And I think that, I've had success and I just didn't dwell on it and nobody else really dwelled on it. And so now that things have been so um, I don't know, focused on, oh, you need more women here, more.
Mhm.
And I mean, we had a good cross section of, there were a lot of women that worked on the floor, and actually were a lot of women brokers, and there were women market makers, and it was a pretty more male dominated, but a pretty good percentage, I would say.
I would just say that it wasn't so much by design. It was just, I think guys were attracted to the aggressiveness of the trading pit, the quest for making money. And I mean, it wasn't that women were excluded. I just don't think they were drawn to that kind of environment. And call it, say whatever you will. I'm not sure if I'm using the right words, but women actually in some cases had an advantage over the guys because I think the men would want the women in the pit and they would let them come in. And I mean, I met my wife on the trading floor. Yeah, there were a few instances where there was they didn't manage boundaries, physically, but once she smacked them in the face or punched them, then she got respect.
Yeah.
And probably can't
And
do that today. Probably a woman can't punch a man for, I don't
right.
know, maybe they can.
I never had any person be inappropriate to me, thankfully. So I'm thankful for that. But I do remember one time in the OEX pit when it was really crowded, Nicky always stood right behind me. I don't remember his last name, but he's, I know I saw him on
Greek. He had a
Facebook.
Greek last name.
Yes.
Yes,
And
I know. I can picture his face, but I can't remember his last name.
yeah. And so, I mean, he's trading, he's trying to make money, and he really wasn't thinking about what he was doing. And he would, like accidentally hit me and stuff. And one time his elbow came down so hard right on the top of my head. And I just turned around and I said something not very nice, but I was like, damn it, Nikki. Only I said the full thing. And I said, stop it. And he like just looked stunned, like he didn't even realize really he had done it.
Sure.
But it was, you just had to hold your own. So
And so, how were out trades? Did you ever have that one extraordinary out trade, or were you really good at, having your clerks check things, and that never was an issue for you?
I am very thankful that no, I never had an out trade that, I don't know, that I didn't have out trades,
Mhm.
thankfully.
Good.
And I mean, I do sometimes, I heard you asking one of the other people about what nightmares or dreams do you have about the floor? And I mean, I do sometimes have dreams about, I've got 1,000 lot order I have to fill. And
And the bell's about to ring.
yeah, right, right.
So,
So
how was your transition into going into real estate then, Anne? How did you? Was this something really exciting for you because maybe it was more intellectual? You're doing capitalization rates or maybe commercial real estate. Did you find that it was at a quieter pace that you felt more appropriate for being a mom? Like, was it everything? Well, not everything, but was it what you kind of wanted as a mom?
well, it did give me the flexibility that I wanted. And so that was really good. And it was a good transition. And after, let's see, I left the floor in 87 and we moved to Central Illinois in 89. And we were going to try doing real estate down here. And it just didn't work out. So then I really didn't work as much because our daughter was still really little.
Mhm.
And then when she was about, 22 months, it was about in 19, well, the beginning of 91, I started working. And then in 92 is when I got back onto the retail side and started as a financial advisor in an
Really?
office.
Wow.
And
Well,
so
that's what I do.
oh, really?
I own a boutique registered investment advisory firm in Illinois. And so tell me about that. Tell me about your.
So I um, had, we moved out to the country in the middle of nowhere in central Illinois. And the thing that drew us down here was we owned a vacation home near Shelbyville, Lake Shelbyville,
Yep.
with Tom Petros and his wife.
I was just gonna call. I was just gonna say his name. Tommy Petros is the only other guy that I know that ever mentioned Lake Shelbyville, and I haven't seen him in his. Boy, I haven't seen him in a few years, but we
Yeah,
stayed in contact. Tommy
yeah,
and Jeannie.
yeah. And well, let's see, uh, fourth child got married at the end of January. I went to the wedding, so I just saw them there then. But well, Kenny Bellavia and Gary Bowers also each had a place down there or shared a place down there, so they would go down too. But so we moved to Central Illinois. I just started working at an insurance company. It was about the worst job I've ever had. And it was so let's see, it was the end of 91 and the markets weren't that good and people really weren't hiring, but I did get on with office in Decatur, Illinois at Kemper Securities.
Mm-hmm.
And so I became a broker. I was there and have switched companies a little bit, but went to Raymond James in '07 and have been in some different offices with them, but I am still with them now.
And you are the options expert when it comes to covered call writing and hedging strategies. Any of that come across your desk?
Really, the clients that I work with have been very extremely conservative people, and they really aren't doing covered call writing.
Okay.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
haven't really done it.
I went through that. So when I left the floor and did investment advising, I was going to bring, call option premium and, really juicy, attractive returns to portfolios. But what happened was primarily the market just kept going up and up and up and up. And the clients were like, okay, so Apple is trading at 100, you sold the 80 call. Amazon's trading at 200, you sold the 170 call. Like, Bill, what's with these? We're getting killed. We weren't
Yeah,
getting killed. We just weren't making what we should have if we had just
right.
been long only, right? So all the education, all the theories of covered call writing, it was interesting, and I still use them in a little bit of my practice today. But for the most part, when you are in a straight up market year after year after year after year after year, it just you're like, wait, I should have never began this option thing.
Right. And so, I was lucky when I got on with Kemper. I was working as a junior broker to the branch manager of the office who had been in the business since the 60s, and he was one of the biggest advisors in town. And his book of business, I was working with people who I never would have had a chance to work with just starting out, so my learning curve was really fast, and I learned a lot, uh, I think very quickly on this side of it.
Do you still have your trading jacket and trading badge?
I have a badge, but I don't have my jacket.
And your acronym was ANN?
Yes, it was.
Okay. 3352? What was the name for
302.
302 for Bear Stearns? Okay.
Nope,
I'm
for
sorry,
Drexel
Burnham,
Burnham.
Burnham, Burnham, Burnham. All
Yes.
right, so let's go back to the 70s then. Let's go all the way back. Any other memories from being there in 77? Gosh, it was just, I mean, for me and my memories back then, we were just peeling off of the Vietnam War in like 74. There was still so much turbulence, and I wouldn't say that we had much discussion about inflation maybe 1 or 2 years later, but I don't know. I just remember it still being, kind of like a carefree, hippie-ish kind of time period. I mean, I was the only boy. I've got a sister that's 4 years older, but maybe I was insulated from what was going on in the economy and global events. But I don't know. I just don't remember that much crazy stuff going on in 77, except culturally, not like economically.
Right. And I don't remember, so much about 77. I do remember, I think it was in 79 when the New York Stock Exchange traded 86 million shares, and we almost fell apart. It was like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
And I always remember Dave Levinsky saying that was his first day on the floor, was that day.
Uh-huh.
And he was like, what is going on here? He just couldn't believe it. But I do remember on Fridays at the end of the day, they would announce the money supply
Yes. I
on,
forgot about that.
yeah. And so that was always something people were listening for.
Well, we would wait for the money supply figure to be released at 3:12 or something,
Uh-huh.
3:08, and we had just enough time, like 2 minutes, to get in our exercise notices before the market closed. We would try to
Okay.
take advantage and play that because if we thought the money supply figure was good, we'd exercise deep into money puts. And if we thought that the money supply number was bad, we would exercise deep into money calls because we knew that we could buy them back cheaper the next day, right? And then of course they closed that loophole. I forget what year that was, but we couldn't do that anymore. So
Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember. And then, um, oh, what else? I don't know. I mean, just they had the little uh area. You go down the stairs to the 7th floor to leave the floor, and that's where everybody would stand around and smoke. And it was just a big
I
smoky
forgot
area.
about that. We could smoke. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And we had actually phone booths like set up little like all over
Yes.
the place. You could actually pick up you had, you know,
Yep.
back before there were cell phones. That's crazy.
Yep. And other things I remember is when visitors would come to the floor, if it was a nice looking woman, it would like stop trading, which was so stupid,
Right.
but it was just unbelievable. And then people would have the goofy pages that they would call in and ask to be paged.
Mm-hmm.
And I
You
can't
remember any of
remember.
what they were?
Yeah, I can't. I remember Johnny Paycheck came to the floor one time to visit, and they did something to have him page somewhere, but I don't remember what it was.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah,
Yeah, we did. We had some dignitaries come across our floor, but I don't ever remember like seeing them at the time. I wasn't going to leave the pit to see Madeleine Albright or whatever, like whoever was
yeah,
there. But I
yeah.
was having breakfast in the Board of Trade and shook hands with Jimmy Carter in 1980 when I first started down there as a runner at the Board of Trade.
And
And that was back when he had like two bodyguards. I mean, it was
yeah,
crazy. It was like not what it would be like today.
well, I do remember a story now that you mentioned that. I don't know if it was when Jimmy Carter was there and somebody robbed Harris Bank in the Board of Trade building lobby. And I thought there were a lot of Secret Service around, and the guy got caught right away because he did it when,
Yes, I remember that.
yeah,
Bad timing, right? He robbed
yes,
the bank when the president was there, and the whole place was surrounded like with CIA and FBI and oh
right,
my gosh.
right,
Oh, that's really funny.
yeah, and
Wow. Yeah, those were the now what did you do on lunch break? Were you an outdoors person? Did you hang outside and catch some rays by the horse? Did you just
no,
stay inside
yeah,
and eat your lunch or did you go for a walk down Printer's Row?
no, I on the old floor, I would actually either eat in the members lounge when I was a member, which it was a little teeny little room on the old floor, but it was quick.
Right.
And then let's see, on the new floor, I mean I'd go to broker's lot because we had an account there, so I could just go order and sign my name. But I would just eat at the counter in the back and just eat and go right back.
The food was really good there. I mean, I
Yes.
basically ate there 5 days a week for 30 years. I mean,
Yeah. I
just
mean,
about.
it was. It was. And one time I was walking back from lunch and there were a couple of women walking in front. I mean, it was crowded busy Chicago street,
Mhm.
and they were two women from the floor, and there were these two young men that were walking in front of them, and I just when I had walked up, I sort of thought something's up here. And so the two young men in front of them, one was limping, and they were walking, and the boys, they were they were boys, teenagers, were walking in front of these women, and the boys started up the stairs to the um, options building, and one of them fell over, tripped. And so the women were like, oh, started help. The other guy, I guess the other guy was walking behind them. He starts reaching in the purse of one of the women. The first guy was to distract them. And I go, what are you doing? And they just, and they ran off. They didn't do it. And the women were like, oh, thank you.
Yeah. There
It
was all
just looked,
sorts of scams down there. I remember a guy walking down past the Board of Trade, past the CBOE, and he had what appeared to be two arms carrying like dry cleaning, right? The clothes and dresses in a bag. And he would walk up to a woman and he'd say, hey, what do you think about these dresses? Would you like to buy it? But what you didn't see was his other hand was going inside their purse while he was
mhm,
showing them the dry cleaning. And so that was his pickpocket ways of distraction and snatching things. So
yep,
yeah, there's that.
yep,
That's crazy. Well, that's everywhere, right? No matter
yes.
where you go. But
You just have to be alert.
yeah, the CBOE really wasn't in a very good neighborhood when they built it. I remember starting in 1980, I had to take the Harlem Avenue bus to Higgens because we lived in Norwood Park, so Edison Park, far northwest side. Harlem Avenue bus to Higgens, Higgens bus to Jefferson Park because that's as far as the CTA went. Then the Jefferson Park Blue Line all the way into Jackson or LaSalle. And Jackson was okay because it would let you out right by Calder's Flamingo, that big orange steel piece of public art. But if you got off at
Oh,
LaSalle, you were like at LaSalle and Congress, which was really scummy. And I'm like, okay, I'm dead. Oh well, you know. But that's what it was like back then. I remember it was just a crummy hotel in the corner, and they could little by little regentrified,
mhm.
all that. So that was good times.
Right, right. We ended up, we would drive down every day just about. So
Hmm.
we would usually park pretty close, but then found the uh, prices were always going up. And we went to a lot that was on the south side of, what would that be, Congress. And it wasn't real far, but walk a couple of blocks and save a few bucks. So
Sure,
we did that, but it was nice to have the vehicle at the end of the day. So
for sure.
that
And
was
so, do
good.
you stay in touch with anybody, Anne?
Yeah, well, the Petroses, I mean, um, I was part of owning that place in Shelbyville with them for over 25 years. And so my daughter grew up with their kids, and that was just really great. And so I don't see them that often, but like I said, I was at the wedding in
I'm
January. And
calling them. Since I get done with this, I'm going to call them just so you know and say hi because I haven't talked to them
okay,
in so
uh,
long.
okay, great. And then on Facebook really is how I'm connected with most people.
Mhm.
And I am connected with, well, I'd say Kathy Klein is more active on Facebook. She was one, and Marge Beaver and Dolores Villacrez.
Oh my gosh, yes, I want to
Uh-huh.
talk to them. I want to please reach out to them for me, right? And I'd like to do D. I remember her. We
Uh-huh.
kind of traded in the same pits when we first started. But Fireball,
Uh-huh.
oh Fireball.
Yep.
Marsh Beaver again. I remember her being relatively quiet. I mean, I didn't know her very well, but D. I'm not gonna say we started at the same time, but we traded in the brown room, I think, for a while together, and she was just
Okay.
a pistol.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
took no grief from anybody. She was
Right.
something else.
Yep. She's great. She's great. And let's see who else. Sorry, anybody I'm forgetting, but some other friends that aren't really on Facebook too much, although I'm connected with them, but in real life, no, I don't really
Yeah.
see, many people anymore. It's
Same.
just,
You know,
Yeah.
I've told everybody else, and they've kind of told me the same thing. You know, some guys went out afterwards or on the weekends to play golf. I just for me it was just a job. I mean,
Hmm.
you trade, the bell rings, you go up and exchange your coat, and you go home. Like that was it. It was just different.
Right. Well, it really was my life and my circle of friends and everything, but then um, being away from it, moving to Central Illinois, really, um, you get away from it that way.
Sure.
And so, but a lot of really, really great times and met some really, really great people, some really wild people, um, and just, was a great part of my life that I really enjoyed.
It was. It was really the best of the best, and it was. I do I miss it? I'm not sure if that's the right word, but it was. And now, as I said before, now that I start seeing people that were original members or they're in the '70s begin to pass away, I do probably look more fondly upon that time because it was an amazing part of history that we frankly just didn't. Because it's gone, it's like, oh my gosh, look at what we were a part of. Look at what
Yeah.
we were a part of.
And I mean, and it's so funny to think that remember on the old floor, Danny Asher was there, and I think it was him, had a mobile phone. And it was like, what is that? That was really early adopter. I think it was some sort of bag phone, maybe,
Yes,
but and just to think that everybody did all this without computers,
I
really.
know. I know. My first job as a clerk was with John Stafford, and he used to fly to Connecticut or Boston on the weekends. And I would have a Texas Instruments computer where I would dial into a number about 8 o'clock, and I would use a push button, then would take the handset and put it into these two cups on top of the Texas Instruments.
Mhm.
We would
Mhm.
download all the closing prices from CompuServe or something like that. It would create graphs like charts. I would print them all out, put them in a FedEx package, and then drop them off before 9 o'clock at night down in the loop, and then take the CTA home at flipping 9:30 at night. And he would receive them the next morning and look at charts all day long, on the weekend, and then he'd come back and make trades for Monday morning. So Federal Express overnight was like amazing technology, and to have
Right.
and, and to show off at my girlfriend's house where I would dial in to CompuServe and put the
Right.
handset in. You could hear the modem connecting.
Yes.
It was just so high tech back then.
Really.
Wow. All right.
Well,
Well, Anne, listen, thank you so much for
you're
walking with me
welcome.
down this trip of memory lane and remembering, the beautiful parts and probably some of the frustrating parts of being at the CBOE and in what was a male dominated space. But you held your own, you done good, and it's really great to catch up with you. So thank you. And please, I want to talk to the people that you know because these are all really important stories and everybody has a different perspective.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. I'll see if I can connect you. And sorry, this lighting did not work
Oh, that's
out.
okay. You're fine.
But anyway, so I'll let them get connected with you if they want to proceed. I hope they do because like I said, I just love hearing all these stories. They bring back a lot of memories,
Oh,
and
for
it's been
sure. For
fun.
sure.
And
Thanks.
thank you for
All right. You're
doing it.
welcome. I'll chat with you later then, Anne.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.